Okay, this is now the 5 Minute Tarot for the 7th of July 2017. And today we look at the video from Julie. She had picked a card for the best way to move this channel forward. And Julie's from the north of England, as some of you might recognise. I say that because she sounds so north of England. And I think it's Manchester, not Liverpool. But it's also not Leeds on the other side of the mountains anyway. Okay, so here we go with Julie. Julie.
Hello John, hi. You asked for some shaky, grainy footage to be uploaded, didn't you? So here it is. I apologise for the really poor quality, I know. Right, so the question is, what would be the best way to move your channel forward? And a couple of days before you asked people to do this, I was thinking to myself, what card is it that when I see it, I just don't know what to say? And guess what happened? Yeah, the Seven of Pentacles. Whenever I see this, I just think, oh no. So if it had been a live reading, I would have had to shove this under the carpet somehow and start talking about something else. So what I did was, I went away and I've thought about it, and now with one thing and another, 2 days have gone past, and I have seen Robert's video, and he pulled a 7 as well, didn't he? So I thought that was quite interesting.
Okay, let me say something about the 7 of Coins, and this is for Julie, so that she won't feel like putting that particular card under the carpet if it ever comes up in a reading. So if we look at the picture, the person has a coin at their feet, and it's just looking at we've got 6 coins on the shrub or the bush there. And we've got 1 at the feet, and it's as if something has been chosen. The coin on the ground can represent something that's been chosen, or a decision that has been made, presumably by the questioner or by the person who's leaning against the staff. But it's a bit like, because we've got 7 coins and only 1 has been chosen, it's as if they've made a small decision, or they've got a starting point, but it's only step 1. Right, because there's 1 coin there. So the card's message can be, you've done step 1, you've got part of the answer, but the main point is what's next. So maybe if Julie considers that when she sees the 7 of Pentacles in a spread, it's important for the questioner to think, okay, what do I do next? Or what should be, or what ought to be step 2 or step 3 or 4, whatever it happens to be, whatever makes sense, but it's what's next. And I'll tell you this, even though it's unrelated really, yet I was cleaning up my computer and I came across this old PDF, and I looked at the beginning of it because it was about numbers. And the author, if you want the book, let me know. Okay, so he says that the number 7 is for the Earth, 10 is the solar system, and 12 is the galaxy. So in some ways, when you see the number 12 or with the Hanged Man, you're dealing with the big picture, because the galaxy contains a solar system and the solar system contains the Earth. So with the galaxy, it's the big picture, the overall, the main overall theme, let's say. So if the Hanged Man comes up in a spread, then it's important, or it could be important for the questioner to understand what the big picture is. Whereas with 7, and this is because of Julie choosing the chariot here, 7 is a smaller scale. And it's a bit like, think of Sgt. Pepper, the album by the Beatles, or Dark Side of the Moon, where they've got the concept, we're going to do Sgt. Pepper, or we're going to do the Dark Side of the Moon, and that's a bit like the galaxy level. They know the general or the overall theme, but with Sgt. Pepper, we've got the introduction. What's going to be track 2? And that would be the 7 of Pentacles question for the Beatles. Okay, you've got track 1. What's track 2? What's the next track going to be? How are you going to keep the album going Or if you think of a movie where you've, like the Matrix, where Neo goes to the club and quite early on he meets Trinity, who explains to him that we know all about you, we know what you're looking for. So we're introduced to Trinity, who figures an awful lot more importantly later. But we're given the idea, it's introducing quite early on the idea that there's more going on here than meets the eye, and that Neo, his behavior is being monitored and it's being watched. And there's some woman, in this case Trinity, who understands what he's trying to do and who knows better than Neo does what he's actually doing. So it's a bit like if you're writing a movie like The Matrix, what are you going to tell the audience first? Okay, you've established something. What are you going to do next? And that can be what the Seven of Pentacles is about. So with me in this particular question, so I chose the tarot, or I chose to do something with it. But with the Seven of Pentacles, maybe the important thing is, what am I going to do next? What actual steps should I take? So with Chad, he got the Hanged Man, and his reading had more to do with understanding the overall direction in which I want to go. What's the big picture? And make some decisions or do some thinking about what the big picture is. And that was Chad and the Hanged Man. Whereas Julie's dealing with a different type of information.
And they both relate, of course, to the Chariot. I know we're supposed to be talking about the Seven of Pentacles, but I'll get back to that. But the Chariot, when you see him, he's sort of like quite magnificent looking, isn't he? He's quite incredible. He's eye-catching. So I thought what might be a good way to move your business forward. And also, you know, the Chariot, you know, he's moving forward, you know, I think. I mean, I know you can't see that he's moving, but I think he's definitely moving forward. Would be to drive some traffic to your website. How you do that, I think, really maybe would be to be glamorous, like he is. And if you could get somebody who could build a really nice looking website.
Okay, Julie's telling me to be glamorous, and I thought I was glamorous. What can I say? Okay, so I'm not sure about, I mean, for a tarot website, or not website, but a tarot channel dealing with card reading, I'm not sure really how to make it glamorous, although Julie is giving practical and doable suggestions about how do you present the information, how do you present the message, let's say, of the site. And it's important, because even though the quality is good, you've got to present it the right way. You've got to, you get a better response if you present it in a certain way. So Julie's right about pointing out the importance of presentation, and the same with the website. And that's valid, even though I mainly concentrate on producing content with an okay presentation. I mean, the websites that I've got they're okay. They're not bad. The only problem with websites is it's a kind of full-time occupation. I used to spend a lot more time keeping up to date with developments and changes, but it's full-time website stuff. So I need somebody, if I'm going to get somebody to do it, I need $5,000 to $10,000 extra to pay them, because that's what it costs for a website. So that, I think, is for the future. And at the same time, I've got a number of different sites, so I'm not sure if Julie's referring to all of them or just to one or two.
I've heard that, well, I know that the Eclectic Tarot Forum is shutting down on the 14th of July. So there's loads of people out there, you know, in lifeboats looking for a new home. So maybe you could take some of those in. But I think what it needs is something a bit more nice looking than you already have, to get people's attention.
Okay, so Julie mentioned the Eclectic Tarot site with the forum, and I've been there. I've visited. When I say I've been there, I've looked at the site a few times off and on, but I didn't take to it. I'm not that big a fan of forums where there's ongoing discussions. Often discussions peter out quite quickly, whereas I prefer to go more in depth into situations. Also, I'm kind of argumentative. So when it comes to forums, I say what I think, and people don't agree with it. And I just cannot give up. I just have to have the last word. But at the same time, when it comes to forums, I was wondering about telling you this, so I'll mention it, that when I was born, the day of my birth, the planet Jupiter was retrograde. So when you've got Jupiter going backwards in the sky, as seen from Earth, that's why it's called retrograde. So when you have Jupiter retrograde in your birth chart, you don't like to join groups. You're not a joiner. So when I say I didn't participate in the eclectic forum, it's no criticism of them. It's just, it's not the kind of thing that I personally, that I personally would do. I just don't join groups. But I'm mentioning this thing about Jupiter retrograde so that to add a little bit to your understanding that people are built a certain way. We're all of us built a certain way, and you can get that from the horoscope. But it's a bit like if you've got Jupiter retrograde, you have to live with it and not think there's something wrong and that I ought to change, or I ought to do something apparently better, which is join a group. So Julie's talking about, or she's mentioning, the importance of getting people's attention, and she's right, and it's important. And I'll think about how to do this. And if you have some suggestions for how I can be more glamorous and so on, and how to glamorize the website, you could always let me know. Okay?
So back to, the Seven of Pentacles. You did say something that I remember. You said that you wanted to be more business-like, and of course the Seven is about business, isn't he? Because it's money, and you're thinking about it like you're not sure what's more important, what you're doing, the value of what you're doing, or being rewarded financially. But when I looked at it, I thought, you're the gardener and we're all your little pentacles, and you're growing us. You're not getting too involved, but you're there in, watching over us all because you are the elder.
So I'm a gardener and you're my plants. So I think that's quite an interesting point to make. I hadn't thought of it, but you can see how the idea of the gardener and the plants, and cultivating and growing and watering and feeding and so on, how that can make sense. So that type of meaning, the idea of the Seven of Pentacles being the gardener, it may be in a book somewhere, although I'm not familiar with it. But I think it shows Julie, and you can do the same. You as a reader can do the same. You either adapt something that you read, and you adapt that meaning or that answer, that type of activity to the current question. Or else Julie had her own idea, but she translated the idea of the gardener into something relevant for the question. And that, I think, is actually and correct and truly reading the card and reading the tarot, and not just memorizing meanings and trying to fit them in with something that you're saying.
So but if you did want to make money out of it, apart from doing private readings, and selling courses, all the other successful YouTubers, what they do is they do readings every week, every month, for people's tarot horoscope things. I don't know if you fancy doing that. You could always interview people, not just on tarot, but on, esoteric subjects or whatever, or anything. Interview Bob Dylan. You get lots of, people subscribing to you then. Patreon. Did I mention Patreon? That's another way to make money. But I think if you could make a forum that was really nice looking, then you could get a really good discussion going, and then you wouldn't have to worry about copyright or anything else like that. That's just a few thoughts. Okay, thanks, bye.
Okay, I've made a note of the idea that, or some of the ideas that Julie mentioned there about doing interviews and so on, and I'll see what happens with that. Although, again, it's kind of goes back to what Chad was saying about having to think things through, and Julie's making that same point as well. So I'll see what happens with those various ideas. Also, I realized I do readings for people, and some people know this, but I'll do more with letting people know. Because the fact that I do readings, it's one of those things that I know and I think it's obvious, but it isn't. So the reason I'm mentioning this is for you in your life and in your tarot studies, you know what you do, or you know what you know, and for you it's obvious, but it's obvious to you, but it's maybe not so obvious to other people. So be aware of what you say and what you do and how you think and the presentation that you give, and maybe remember that it may be obvious to you, but it's not automatically obvious to other people. So are there certain things you need to point out, or is there a certain approach that you ought to take so that people can understand what it is that you do, or what kind of point it is that you're trying to make? So I'm thinking that this is going to be on long, and so tomorrow, I was going to add something at the end, but I'll do it tomorrow instead in its own little video. And if you want to think about it, take a look at the Hanged Man that Chad got, and take a look at the Seven of Pentacles that Julie got, and put them together and see what you see about those two together. And I'll give you an observation tomorrow. That's it for the moment. I was trying to think of something else to say, but I can't think. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.